All right, it is 7 p.m. We'll get started. My name is Kurt Galley. I'm the owner of Carriage Houses Northwest, and you're going to hear from me tonight as well as Sam Marks from Cottage. And so I want to let everybody know you've got two companies on the call tonight, and we work together to help bring ADUs to market, and we'll explain how we do that. We've got everybody muted, and if you have questions as we go, you can drop those into the chat and Rick will queue them up. And when we're done, we'll have Q&A time when we hopefully we'll get to all those. If we don't get to your question, we will be available afterwards. And this is being recorded and we will probably put it on both websites, hopefully by tomorrow or in the next couple of days, so you can view it again. So thank you so much for being with us. We're excited about the topic. There's a ton going on with regard to accessory dwelling units in the state of Washington and Snohomish County. And so we're going to talk through some of the mechanics of that tonight and hopefully give you a good broad overview. We've got a ton to cover, so we're probably going to go fairly quickly. The reason that we have both companies on, Carriage Houses and Cottages, Carriage Houses is a builder, and larger shops may be design build. I'm a big believer in specialization, and when we found out that Cottage was out there, we worked really hard to become a builder in their network. They do everything that we don't. So Cottage handles the ADU process from initial conversation and design conversations through drafting and engineering. They do the feasibility. They do plan submittals and take you through permit. Once you have permit, the ball's handed over or back to Carriage Houses for the physical construction, site work, and the vertical build. So that's how we work together. They're the front end, and we're the builder. And again, we'll be talking a lot about that. So the definition of an accessory dwelling unit is a dwelling or unit located on single family lot. It's an accessory to something else. It's an accessory to the single family house, to a duplex, a triplex, or a townhome. And the reason that there's so much conversation about it is last summer on July 23rd, the state passed House Bill 1337, which basically said in all single family, what were traditionally zoned as single family residential lots, you're allowed to have not just one ADU, but two ADUs. And it supersedes anything except existing covenants that may be written in by some homeowners associations. Outside of that, you are allowed to have two ADUs on your property if you've got the room for it. And we'll talk a bit about that as well. So it's a big deal. The whole design is to allow more affordable housing and get more infill without having to tear down homes and start all over or put up, big, tall, skinny condominiums and townhomes. So I want to go through what Everett has done because they're modeling largely what the state put forth. So everything that the state put in House Bill 1337, Everett pretty much enacted, so they're a good example. It's not the only place, and for those of you who are outside of Everett and other locations, either your municipality has adopted similar rules and ordinances, or they're going to be doing it soon. They have until 6 months after their next comprehensive plan. Every municipality has comprehensive growth plans that they meet and decide on things every couple of years, and so this time around, after their next comprehensive plan, they have 6 months to enact this ordinance. So what does it state? It says that you can have two ADUs on a lot, which I mentioned. The maximum size for a detached ADU is 1,000 square feet. They can't set lower limits. So right now, the city of Snohomish is, I believe, 600 square feet. That'll go to 1,000 once they adopt the ordinance. Ownership segregation is allowed. This is a big one. Previously, to build an ADU, the owner of the property had to live in the primary house. That's no longer true. So you can rent out the ADU. You can rent out both units, the primary and the ADU. The maximum building height has been increased in many cases. And in the city of Everett, place where there are a ton of alleys, on an alley lot, you can go 28 feet high. On other non-alley lots, it's 24 feet high. There's no minimum lot size required, but there's a maximum coverage that they're allowing. So you can cover with structures 45% of your property, and the rest of it you have to leave unencumbered. So again, though you're allowed to have 2 ADUs, you also have to meet the maximum lot coverage requirement, or maximum, yeah. Alley lots don't have any rear setback. You can take your ADU right to the alley line. You typically have 5-foot rear setbacks if it's not on an alley, and typically 5-foot side setbacks. The reason that these are most often done in the backyard is because most places have a larger setback on the front yard from the front street. In the city of Everett, I believe it's 20 feet. So it just doesn't provide, there's no reason you couldn't have an ADU in the front, but you got to have the room for it with that setback, and setbacks are typically smaller in the rear of the primary house. You got minimum off-street parking requirements, although they are waived if you're within a half mile of a major transit stop. So if you're located near a bus line that has regular stops all throughout the day, you may not have to have additional parking, which is great because sometimes that parking can take up so much space that there's no room to put an ADU. So why are people doing them? One great reason is they generate rental income. They can increase property value. I would say there's no magic. There's no magic to that. So if you build a ADU and it costs you $300,000, it's not like it's worth $400,000 the day you complete it, but it'll experience the same appreciation that the primary house does. So over time, it'll increase property value. It's a great way to create affordable housing, as I was talking about before. Constantly, we're talking about affordable and infill, and this ADUs is a great way to capture that. Along with that, ADUs, because they have a maximum size of 1,000 square feet, they're smaller house, less environmental impact. And that's important to a lot of people in this area. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam Marks, Director of Sales for Cottage, and he'll walk you through the whole front end of the ADU process. So Sam, I'm going to pass you the slide control and let you take it.
Sounds good.
All right, you got it.
Perfect. Thanks, Kurt. Thank you everyone for spending some time with us tonight. Super excited, honored to be here. Like Kurt said, I'm the Director of Sales at Cottage. I've spent the last 6 years working with homeowners, either in construction, ADUs, mortgage, really passionate about helping homeowners like yourselves build wealth through real estate, as well as adding affordable housing to our communities. Located in the Bay Area, born and raised here. Cottage is a little bit newer to the kind of Washington market, but we're super excited to be partnering with Kurt and Carriage Houses to bring ADUs. So Cottage, let's see if this is going to keep up. There we go. We'll talk a little bit about our process, the way we do things. We kind of feel like we have created the smartest way to design and build your ADU in partnership with great contractors like Kurt. What we've done so far, this is in the last 4 or so years. We've completed recently our 200th. We've got another 250 that are being designed, permitted, or constructed as we speak. So 3 ADU types, and in Washington, you can have some combination of these 3. Right now, it's a little bit municipality dependent, like Kurt was alluding to. You can build something detached, something attached to the main home, or you can convert an existing space like a garage, a basement, a shed structure. As a ground up kind of non-prefabricated ADU provider, we can help you with all 3 depending on what's going to best fit your budget, your goals, your need. So we'll go kind of quickly through this slide, but we sort of sit in between prefab and then the traditional, like go find an architect to design, get those plans permitted, and then go and have a builder bid them. Cottage is going to give you more flexible design than prefab. Prefab, you get what you get. They're built off site. So there's also sort of the quality aspect. In general, things that are built kind of ground up or stick built are going to have better lasting quality. You're a little bit limited with prefab in terms of what you can do. So if you've got a tighter lot and an attached ADU is your only option, or you have a garage that you want to convert, That's not going to be an option with prefab. So again, there's good flexibility in being able to do that. It's going to be a little bit faster once you get through permitting and get those with the construction timeline. You might save 1 to 2 months by going prefab versus something stick built. But what's also really cool is with Cottage, we are very integrated with our builders. So we have a really good sense very early in the process of what you should budget, and we can help you design, we can perform feasibility with that budget in mind. So lots and lots of benefits. I'm obviously a little bit biased, but we'll talk more about our process in coming slides. So kind of the 4 things we'll touch on for why we hope you would consider working with Cottage. We have a great streamlined process. We have beautiful, fully custom designs. Kurt alluded to having to put in a lot of work to get on the network. They passed with absolute flying colors, but we put a lot of work to make sure that the contractors that we work with, that our homeowners work with, are really the best of the best. And then we also deliver, we think, best in market value for what we're doing. So little overview of the process. We start with feasibility. We do our feasibility at no cost. So we'll first want to understand what you're looking to do, what's possible on your property, your lot, what your budget is, and help you kind of find the best starting point. From there, you get to work one-on-one with a cottage designer to design sort of the ADU of your dreams that matches your vision and your goals. And then at this point is when we'll start to work with Kurt. Once that design is finalized, hand over the kind of preliminary schematic designs. He'll give an idea of what he thinks the construction cost will be. So you're getting kind of harder numbers a lot earlier in the process than you would elsewhere. Once you're happy with that design, we will do all of the permitting work for you from submission to approval and all of the not so fun stuff that happens in between. At this point, this is when we're going to hand the plans off to Kurt. Kurt's going to take over the build, but we remain in a pretty active support function throughout that process. If there's questions about plans, if you need anything, if Kurt's got questions, or if you have any questions. We also have a pretty cool pay-as-you-go approach. So you'll look at the total budget in a handful of slides. We can and we hope to help you through the whole process. We can do everything from A to Z, but what's pretty cool is you don't have to commit to everything up front. You can kind of choose what scope you want to take on through this process and then move at your own pace. And we're here to do that with you. So why do we think custom design is the right approach? One size, frankly, doesn't fit all. We have talked to thousands of homeowners across our California and Washington markets at this point. Every lot is different. Every person is looking to use their ADU for a somewhat different reason than somebody else. Budgets are highly specific and unique, and everybody's got a different design goal, whether it's the interior look, the exterior, or the layout. It's all very unique, so you should have that level of control. So what that actually kind of looks like for us is we actually now have 60 vetted floor plans. So I need to update this slide. We'll find the one that's kind of the best starting point, and then you'll work with a designer to customize it. That can be the size. You can add or remove square footage, the shape, the layout, the orientation, the windows, the doors, basically everything big and small is within your control. For some people, it's really important that the ADU's exterior matches seamlessly with the main home. For some people, they don't like the look of the main home and they want to do something totally different. So we have the potential to do whatever it is you want. And then same thing for your finishes, appliances, and sort of the finishing touches. We can make sure it meets your vision and your budget. A little bit more about the process. You'll work one-on-one with the designer. We work with basically the top 1% of designers who do basically nothing but design ADUs. You'll get to see through some technology that we use, some pretty cool 3D renderings. You can actually visualize what the ADU is going to look like, the exterior, the interior, and really get a good vision long before we break ground. And then again, with the finishes, we've got kind of 2 pathways. You can either sit one-on-one with an interior designer and go through every cabinets and hardware and tile, or you can pick from a curated package if you're a little bit more hands-off based on your kind of style preference. And then our builder network, like we've alluded to, we really, really care about quality, service, and value. Kurt alluded to this. There's a pretty lengthy process to get onto the network and onto the platform. There's an interview, there's site walks, we talk to references, there's like a bid review and pricing exercise. Less than 5% of GCs that we've engaged with have actually made it onto the network. And then we also look at things like construction timeline, budget. We want to make you feel like a repeat customer. So we're there to, you know, when needed, provide accountability and support to your builder as well. And then how we provide best in market value. We love that we can be transparent, move at your pace, and not apply any pressure. So before you commit any dollars whatsoever to Cottage, you'll get a free ADU consultation. We'll do a free virtual site assessment, and we'll generate a really nice line item project proposal that speaks to design recommendations, a cost estimate of all of the costs associated from soft costs, hard costs, and more. And then during the project, we are able to design ADUs in a really efficient way. So we bring down those construction costs. We design with budget in mind. And then when you have to go get engineers and consultants and surveyors, we've got exclusive rates that we've negotiated with them. So you're getting a good price and a really good high quality deliverable. And then lastly, you can manage your entire project fully digitally on our platform. You get sort of like a pizza tracker. If you've ever ordered from like Domino's, you can track the progress of the project at any point, go in and see how things are going, when the survey is going to happen, how far we are from being done with design. You can review your bid, you can accept proposals from consultants and surveyors, and actually make payments to all of your different vendors directly through the platform. So we'll go through this kind of quick. This is a little bit of a fun game that we play on our webinars, but it's called Can You Spot the ADU Potential, which isn't a very exciting name. We should probably punch that up, but let's go through a few here. So feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll go kind of fast. This is our very first ADU we ever built. Where do you think that this ADU went? So we actually converted this carport right here, and this became like a 250 square foot studio. What about this one? Let everybody take a look, think of a guess. I guess I sort of just showed off with my mouse there. So we actually built a detached ADU down this grade. Lots of tough work went into the foundation for this one. It was down a pretty substantial grade. Wanted to make sure that we built this at a lower level so we didn't impede on the views of the neighbor or the main home. And the homeowners were really happy with this one. And then last one, there's this really awesome looking shed. And we basically pulled that out. This was a permitted shed, so we were able to keep this same footprint and built a new ADU for our homeowners here with some ADA friendly features, since this was built for a parent in a wheelchair. It turned out really nice. So that's all for me. If you're interested in learning more about Cottage, about how we work together with carriage houses from kind of the Cottage perspective, you're welcome to go to our website here and book a totally free consultation. If you do end up kind of going through the process and ultimately end up working with us, we wanted to make kind of a special offer for attendees of this webinar. We, for that fully custom interior design process where you sit and go through every selection, that's normally a $1,500 charge. We are going to offer basically half off, $750 off for anybody from this webinar that ends up signing on eventually with Cottage. So thank you so much, Kurt. I will kick it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. So I'll go back to us, but again, I want to point out one of the reasons that I wanted Sam on here to talk about Cottage. I've had people say before, "Hey, I'm building 300 square feet. It can't be that tough," and it's not when you know what you're doing. But there are a lot of steps from feasibility through the design and drafting just to get to permit. And as I said, we've done that before for people. We're not the best at it. And when I found a partner that was in the area that does that stuff and then makes the handoff, it allows us to just focus on building. We built our first ADU in 2018. We've done projects all around the Pacific Northwest, including all the places that you see there. We're really focused on Snohomish County at this point, just because we feel like that's where we can make an impact and be the best possible builder. This is our footprint, so you can look through this and I would say, generally speaking, Snohomish County. We're in Marysville. That's our home base, and so just working out from that 10 or 15 miles. We do have projects going in right off Camino Island. So we will go outside of this at times, depending on the project. So if you're outside of this area, we can still talk about it. And I would probably just refer you to Cottage. They've got other builders in their network if you're further south or further on the east side or something like that. I want to go through just a total cost, looking at all these things to give you an idea of where you can be, because I think it is surprising to people sometimes, but there's a lot that goes into an ADU. And you see these, there are 5 areas here before we ever even get to site work, from feasibility through design and drafting, engineering. The plans have to be engineered, putting them together in a submittal packet and getting them to the municipality, working with that municipality through permitting. And then the city impact fees, if you've never heard of that, when you do a development, you put a home on a property or an ADU, you've got to pay things like, you've got to pay towards schools and roads and parks. Now, one of the things that the state of Washington said is when you build an ADU, the city impact fees or municipality impact fees can be no more than 50% of what they would be for a new home on a vacant lot. So I just use this as an example. Impact fees for Everett are somewhere between, I think theirs are actually $2,500 to $3,500. So that'll vary a little bit, but that's a cost of building new construction. Site work, and these are all ranges. This doesn't apply to any one particular build, but site work on the low side for doing things like bringing in sewer, water, power, and prepping it for the foundation can be between $15,000 and $30,000. And the vertical construction on this example, a 500 square foot ADU with what we would call our kind of standard build level, would be between 180 to 200,000, where the whole project would come in somewhere between 215 and 255. So it's a significant commitment, but like I said, it's like building a home, a primary home, just on a smaller scale. And one of the things that you need to think about then, if you don't have $250,000 laying around, that people often ask us about, is how do people finance an ADU? And I would tell you that first bullet point is really how most people do it. I've got a couple others here, but the way to do it, or the best way to do it, is through a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit. So most people that we talk to have owned their home for a few years, and if you have owned your home for 5 years or more, you've got equity built in that you have access to. And a home equity loan is at a fixed rate. A line of credit is often at a variable rate and somewhat shorter term. But both are ways to tap into the equity of your home to build an ADU. Another way people can do it is in a cash out refinance when rates have jumped like they have. I would say it's not a great option right now, because you're going to reset to pull cash out of your existing mortgage. You're going to write a new loan at a new higher rate. And I would rather just take a portion at the higher rate than the entire amount. Another way to do it is through a renovation or a construction loan. These are often used when you have less equity, where you can get a lender to look at the future value of the property once the ADU is built. So it is a method for getting a loan. Again, this has higher costs, typically shorter term, and then when the construction is done, you do need to roll into a longer term mortgage. So by and large, I would say 80% of the ADU financing that's done out of there is done through a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit. One of the good things, because of where rents are in Snohomish County, in Washington, and the Pacific Northwest, rents are high. This is an opportunity to provide affordable housing, but rents still are what they are. I just use as an example a 750 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath ADU, and I did this based on some comps I pulled in Everett. Let's say that costs you $300,000 and you have a loan amount of $250,000. Well, the loan payment at 9%, which is a pretty typical HELOC interest rate right now, might be between $2,200 and $2,500. Let's say you can find a special offer and you can get it at 7% interest. That knocks it down by $300 to $500 a month. Well, rental income on that 750 square foot ADU could be $1,600 to $2,000. And that would just be for long-term rents. Many people are taking their ADUs and using them for short-term rentals, which can generate even higher incomes. But the point here being that you can largely offset your loan payment with your rental income. And now you have somebody else who's paying most of the cost of the build, and you're enjoying the appreciation of that asset going forward. In 15, 20 years, it's going to appreciate just like the primary home does. And if you've had other people paying your mortgage payment along the way, it's a complete win. A few projects that we've done, we converted a cabin here. This one was 550 square feet. We did one that in a backyard in Seward Park, where the total was about 400 square feet. We worked with another company who did the foundation and site work. We did the vertical construction on that one, and then one on this one was actually in Bainbridge Island, a place we won't go for a site build now, but it was a 300 square foot and kind of a cool look. So I wanted to include that example as well. So again, we went through everything at a very high level, very quickly here. And I don't know, Rick will tell us what questions have come in. But one of the things I want to leave you with is, if you're in the phase where you're just trying to still figure out what's possible and what you can do, either of our companies, and possibly both of them, are more than happy to talk through with you scenarios that may work for you. So the feasibility that Cottage does will take a look at your property and look at your setbacks, at the amount of coverage that you have, and give you a report that says, looks like you could put a 400 square foot ADU on your property, and here are some of the things that you need to think about. We can do the same thing. We're local on the ground here, and if you want me and my partner Marco to come do an in-person site visit, we're more than happy to do that. If you have questions about how the rules and regulations affect you, you can ask either one of us about that. So we want this to be, we've given you a lot of information about the capabilities of our companies. This is why we exist. We want to build you an ADU, but we also want to help you navigate the process, whether you buy from us or not. So we appreciate you listening to this. And Rick, if you've got questions that have come in that we can start tackling, we can do that now.
Sure. Thanks, Kurt. Couple questions were submitted before the presentation via email, but there's one that has come in here just as far as Skagit County.
Skagit.
Skagit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't see it though. What was the question?
Is that a service area that you would address?
It's possible. Like I said, we're in Marysville. My partner on the construction side happens to live on Camano Island. For him, it's only about 20 minutes to some places in Skagit. So it's certainly worth connecting on and letting us talk to you about it.
Okay, so that's I think Miss Perez, so you could reach out after. Couple other questions, and if anybody on here live has questions, just drop them into the chat and we'll moderate those. One question that came in before was, what is there's a good question just came in, so I'll address that right now. What's warranty on an ADU build?
Well, I can tell you from our part, we and most builders have a standard 1-year warranty on workmanship. But there are places to purchase longer term warranties, and most of the subcontractors that we work with, our reputation is what we have. If something happens with your home outside of that 1-year warranty, all you got to do is give us a call, and we will, we'll get the appropriate specialist out there. Also, a lot of the things that go into an ADU, your roof, your windows, your siding, your appliances, your flooring, your so many of the things have their own warranties, which supersede, anything that we do as the contractor, that if you have issues with those, you get a hold of us and we work with whoever warranted say the floor was a waterproof floor and it got water damage. Well, it's probably a lifetime warranty on that, and we'll help you with that. So.
Gotcha. Okay, another question had come in about how does building an ADU affect property taxes?
It increases them. So over time,
Theoretically.
yeah, theoretically it does. Over time it becomes part of the real property. So unlike a recreational vehicle or something that you move on that isn't permanent, this does become part of your real property, and it is taxed as such. Now, how the county assessor or city assessors value those, I don't know, except that the cost of construction is often reported, and they may use that right out of the gate.
So does that mean that, completing an ADU build would trigger a reassessment?
Was that?
I will happily take that one away and get back. In California, no, it does not trigger a reassessment of the main home. It's obviously not super relevant here, but I would assume that they're treated pretty similarly. They assess the ADU itself, and then that's added on. But I'm happy to take that away, do a little bit of research, and get back.
Sure. Another question had come in about septic. If you're on a septic system, do you have to put in a new septic system for the ADU typically?
My short answer to that is yes, probably. So if you have it all depends on the capacity of your septic system. So if you have a 4-bedroom septic system installed and only a 3-bedroom house, you still have room for another bedroom. If it's a 3-bedroom septic and you already have a 3-bedroom, then yes, you're either going to need to expand the septic system, and some you have the capability of expanding them, or put in a separate one. The other thing I would say about septic systems is we got to make sure that wherever the ADU goes, it doesn't sit over the tanks, the drain field, and probably the lines that go from the tanks to the drain field. So it can be a bit of an issue. You got to have a large enough property that we can avoid that and put in another or add to the septic system and have footprint for the home that doesn't encroach on it.
And that is all part of our feasibility research, is understanding the capacity. There are consultants that can help with that. And then we'll design with that in mind as well.
Okay, great. Another question here about permitting. Do you apply or does the homeowner apply?
Yep, so cottage will do all of the permitting process. There's also engineers, surveys, different consultants that need to happen to prepare the plan set for us to submit for permits. We'll coordinate all of that as well, and then we do the submission. We'll answer comments from the municipality, and we'll basically take it entirely through to permit approval. No work required on your part.
That's great. Couple other questions have come in here. What about tax increase due to the attachment or detached dwelling? I think that was really addressed. It sounds like there will likely be a tax increase, but Sam, you said you're going to do a little bit of further research.
I'm pretty positive he's correct. It doesn't trigger an intra-period adjustment, but it will. One of the guys that we work with closely is someone who was a tax assessor for 33 years. And he said sometimes it's just when they get around to it, when they get around to noticing that there's another unit on the property. And it triggers somebody to do a look into it.
Another question came in. Final cost, do you add COH, cost of overhead? If you do, what %?
I can speak to the cottage side. We have a flat cost to go basically from A to Z. There's no construction markup fee or anything like that. So there's basically with that pay-as-you-go model, there's a flat cost to do design and get bids in hand. There's a flat cost as we facilitate the different consultants and engineers for the documentation. flat cost for permit approval or submittal, I should say, and then a flat cost for the like build support.
Makes sense. So it sounds like there's quite a bit of transparency around all of those line items.
Absolutely.
And we have, so from the site work and the vertical construction, we typically hard bid it as well. That means we assess what we think our cost is, we apply our own markup, and we give you a bid. We have had times where we have done cost plus, where we've said, we'll just show you every bill, and we'll add a percentage to that. I typically do that on larger projects or projects that may be more iterative. Knowing that out of the gate, that we need to do that. Most of the time, we just provide you a number, and then assuming there aren't changes to the bid, we stick to that. If there are changes, then we'll say, okay, that change is going to cost this much. Do you want to pursue that? Yes or no?
Okay, awesome. Another question had come in before. Do you do handicap accessible builds for older adults?
Yep, so we do ADA friendly design. There actually isn't ADA compliance for like residential real estate, but we will do like broader doorways, zero threshold showers. We've done lots of ADUs with those sort of designs in mind.
Ramps to the front door, those kinds of things?
Exactly.
Yep. Another question had come in. Can you do a 2-story ADU with 2 separate apartments?
Yeah, so you can do 2 ADUs on any, so once all of the municipalities catch up, this should be the caveat to the House bill, you'll be able to do that. And then assuming that we meet the height restrictions, and they allow for 2-story ADUs, then you should definitely be able to do a 2-story duplex.
And so a 2-story duplex would effectively be 2 ADUs just stacked. Is that
Right, 2 separate
right?
units
Yeah.
stacked on top of each other, or you could do a 2-story non-duplex, or it's 1 unit, 2 stories, all sort of eligible.
Yeah. Another question had come in as far as, the most asked for features in an ADU. You gentlemen want to cover some of the top requests from ADU clients?
Yeah, I think I would say most of the people that we have worked with to this point, I'm trying to think through all of ours, even if they want a 2-story because they want to go to that full 1,000 square feet, or they got a narrow lot and they can't have a big footprint on their first story, still want the potential, the ability to have a bedroom down. So we, of all the things that I think about that we get asked about, just bedroom down and segregated from the living area. So we do, and I think Cottage has designs where it's more of a studio look, but when people can separate the bedroom area from the living area, that's something that people often want, and they want the access of a bedroom down, even if there are a couple more bedrooms up.
It's a tough question. A really common feature that people want is 9-foot ceilings, which is technically vaulted by a foot. Once they're in an 8-foot versus a 9-foot, and I guess this is mostly for people that are planning to live in it or house their family, not so much for rentals, but people do typically want to vault their ceiling at least a foot. Tons of other requests that we get to. That's just the first one that popped to mind.
Yeah. Another question was sent in before about separating the main house from the ADU to be able to sell off the ADU independently. Is that something that can be done?
Yes, and I didn't touch on, that's a great question. I didn't touch on it before when I was talking about the House bill, but you can in a couple of different ways. You can condominiumize the property. So you can, when you build the ADU, you can create an airspace condo of just 2 units, the primary house and the ADU, and each of those can be sold separately. But we also just had another House bill pass. I mean, we're talking within the last 30 days that allow that allow most, and I need to make sure I word this correctly, most single-family residence lots, if they are 5,000 square feet, you can split the lot as long as the resulting lot is not less than 2,000 square feet and no more than 40% of the size of the first lot. So again, the state is trying to help people make more use of their property and create infill and density. And so, yes, you can condominiumize as a way to split, or you can legally split the lot and create a short plat essentially with two separate legal lots. And then it's not a condo association. They're just one legal lot becomes two legal lots. And that, this is not my territory. We work with an attorney, a real estate attorney who's all over this stuff. If you wanted a referral, I'd be happy to give you one.
One other question had come in as far as insuring the ADU. Is there anything that's complicated, or is it just added to the homeowner's policy?
In my experience, yes. So it is built, the ADU is going to go through the same permit and inspection process that the primary home did when it was built. So it's going to be inspected for structural and safety and all those things that the insurance company is going to care about, and it'll be added square footage typically to your homeowner's policy.
Another question from before. I wasn't going to ask it, but I think I will, just because, I think a lot of people have been through different, building projects before, but what are typical things that can slow down the process, either from the homeowner or maybe from the municipality?
So from the homeowner side, I would say once we're in design, obviously you're going to make decisions at your own speed. But if you're really taking a long time to make those decisions, which is fine, that can slow things down. What really can slow us down, though, that's a little bit more in your control, is once we've kind of locked the design and we're starting the documentation process, not getting surveyors to come out, not getting engineers to come out quickly, and just not sort of accepting and approving that work. I would say those are sort of the things in the homeowner's control. Kurt, I'm sure you've got a lot more expertise when it comes to what can slow things down in the build side.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is changes. So once you've agreed to your design aesthetic, your build out, changes to that slow things down as we figure out something as simple as we thought we wanted a window there, now we don't want one there. And that can slow things down, from everything from us looking to make sure that it's okay from a structural engineer standpoint, to the way that the framing pattern was planned for that wall and how we'll need to change it. So changes can slow things down. The other thing is, and this isn't a pitch to get you to run out and do this, but there are a lot of applications going in at certainly within Everett, who've already adopted this, but in a lot of municipalities, people putting in plans, and cities are struggling to keep up. So I know they're adding head count. That this is a good thing. We want infill, they want applications, but I know that there are times when Everett has gotten, choked with new applications, and Snohomish County certainly is experiencing that. So that part of the process, and having somebody like Cottage who's on top of it and managing it and making the phone calls when they need to be made and checking in on things, just generally keeping that ball rolling, is huge, because it's nothing for something to sit for 30 days with nobody looking at it, unless you have somebody calling them saying, I'm calling about application 35. Where is that in the process?
Needless to say, you're stick building on site, so weather.
Sure. Yeah. Weather around here, mostly in the winter, can slow things down. There are times where, depending on the lot, the foundation, we may need to wait for water to soak in.
Yeah.
So
We still have just a couple more minutes before we hit the top of the hour. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you have any other questions, please drop them in. I thought maybe we could just take a minute and Sam, if you wanted to just kind of walk us through what the homeowner portal, what kinds of things you had mentioned it, you talked it through pretty quickly, but that sounds like a really important component. If you wanted to maybe talk through that portal a little bit.
Sure. So when you partner with Cottage, we have a portal which we call Blueprint. That's basically your homepage for all things project related. You'll pay your invoices there. You'll receive invoices. You'll receive work orders for your survey, for your structural engineer, energy consultants, all of those things. You'll be able to raise your hand for support from a Cottage team member there. If anything doesn't make sense, we'll respond very quickly. You also have dedicated team members throughout the project as well. But having all of those things in one place, one, helps you keep organized, helps you kind of monitor the budget and things like that. So you're not tracking a million different things in your email and things that you paid, to the city. And then there's also a level of accountability because we have access into all of those things. We're, reviewing our surveyors' work orders. If we see one that comes in, expensively, we will go to bat with the surveyor to understand what's happening. So really, it's a way to keep organized and a way to provide sort of accountability and transparency from start to finish throughout the process.
Awesome. That sounds great. Kurt, I don't think we have any other questions coming in. So any other final comments?
No, we appreciate everybody being on with us, and we hope we've answered your question. But like I said, if we haven't, and you want to reach out separately, please feel free to do that. Sam provided their contact information at Cottage, and you've got this QR code that can take you to our form that you would fill out if you want to tell us about your project and have that feasibility study done.
And if I can, Kurt did call this out. I just want to also reemphasize, we are thrilled to talk with anybody, regardless of what stage in the process you are, whether you think you're 5 years out or you're ready to break ground as soon as possible. We're happy to provide feasibility, provide consultation. We're not going to apply any sort of pressure. So if you are like, oh, this sounds kind of interesting, I'd love to have a first conversation, we'd love to have that first conversation with you.
Excellent. Well, I think that's it. So, Rick, thanks for moderating. Sam, thanks for being on here with us. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. There'll be a follow-up email going out. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Sam. Have a great evening.
Thank you all.